Hey everyone, glad to be back. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. I know I did. My kids basically got lots of, candy and toys, so that's great. Um, Hope everyone has done something over the holidays with loved ones, family, etc. I know lots of people are, I keep hearing everyone's sick or this or that, so all the best. Hope everyone's healthy, and I hope everyone has a happy new year. By the time you hear this, it'll be 2025. So here we are, 2025. Well, 2023 and 2024 was wild for me, so I am sorry about the delay. I am so happy to be back doing the podcasts once again. It was wild. It was wild. Ups and downs for 2023 and 24. But here we are. So I've been doing a lot of online training, especially in the U.S., believe it or not. So lots of clients reaching out, Zoom calls, etc. So that's been going really good. So just throwing that out there, if anyone does want to have a Zoom session, I'm going to be doing a little thing for New Year's. It's not going to be advertised on my sites or anything, so this is strictly for podcast listeners, we could say. It's going to be $50 US for an hour session on Zoom with me, personally. So no one else, no other trainers, just personally me. So if you want to talk about anxiety or some of the behavior problems you're having, you let me know. And the reason why I mention anxiety is because I do want to... I actually had quite a few people reach out. So I think I have enough content / questions to last a whole year of podcasts. I am going to try to get back into it weekly or bi-weekly. One that was very interesting to me was I had about 3 or 4 that talked about anxiety. I had some that talked about prey drives. I had others that talked about, believe it or not, the classic jumping, at guests and this and that. So tons of stuff that we could go through. Yeah. So anxiety. I mean, anxiety is so broad. There's so much to talk about. I mean, you have separation anxiety, isolation. You have all different types of anxiety symptoms and scenarios, from leaving the house to people coming over to meeting dogs, social aspects, noises, going on walks. I mean, anxiety could be leaving your dog with someone. And hearing the classic line of like, my dog's never done that before. Or whatever. So I hear that a lot from boarders and so on. I've actually had a couple dogs over the holidays. Very close clients of mine. Don't do this very often, but when I do, I like to help out. So I try to keep the same trends or whatever you've been doing with your dog. I try to continue that while you're on vacation, so you don't have a big surprise when you come home and the dog is like completely different, at least for a few days. Whether it comes to potty training or whatever. One thing, though, that I've noticed with some of the dogs I've been watching, and a lot of times this is no fault to the owner as well. They rescue the dog. There's so many circumstances, right? It could be a rescue. It could be temperament. It could be, yes, a little bit to do with the owner. There's so many scenarios, right? One of the things is just confidence boosting in general. I think it's being very underestimated. And what I've noticed is I can't tell if it's just my reputation increasing. Not trying to be big-headed here, but I don't know if it's my reputation that's increasing where I'm getting these problematic cases that are dealing with a lot of anxiety-like symptoms, or if I'm dealing with just an uproar in anxiety in general, especially after COVID and now people work from home. And there's a lot. I just feel like society is kind of changing a little bit. Maybe that's part of it. Who knows? What I can say, though, is that I think confidence boosting is something that is being very underrated right now. Confidence boosting means, or what I mean by that is everything and anything. When you're getting these puppies, whether it's a rescue, whether, a breeder, whatever the case is, you need to bring this puppy everywhere. You need to bring this dog with you everywhere. Now, I do not mean you need to flood the dog, bring your dog to, the New Year's fireworks, and traumatize the dog. What I'm really talking about more is getting our dog to go in the car with you, meet new people, meet new dogs, hear the sounds of traffic. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Hearing kids screaming. In some cases, if we're able to, maybe bringing the dog into a store, into a doggy cafe. The more exposure, the better. And I think something that I notice a much bigger trend right now, which is great for this. The exposure rate is increasing because veterinarians are finally starting to tell people, don't worry about the third shot. If you look at the AVSAB, which is the American Veterinarian Society of Animal Behavior, there's so much evidence suggesting that now don't quote me on this because I'm actually presently doing this from my car, believe it or not. Okay, so I have nothing in front of me right now. This is all in my head, but I'm like 90% sure. They said that after the second shot, maybe they even said after the first shot, but I'm going to say the second shot. After the second shot, I think 10 or 11 days after that, you can expose your dog. Now, this doesn't mean let your dog drink puddles of icky water in the dog park or even go into the dog park. But what I'm saying is little controlled scenarios, a friend who has a fully vaccinated dog, and is very friendly, and you want to bring your pup and go say hi, do it. It's okay. Again, you don't have to quote me on this. You can simply go to the AVSAB website and look at this yourself. But it's right there. When I've had my group classes, I've told everyone in my puppy group classes. In fact, I actually had it printed out so that they can read it themselves to see that it's not just, I'm not just talking about this from thin air kind of thing. But it's actual facts. Back to the confidence boosting. Bring your dog everywhere. Let your dog see the world. And here is the other big one. And now it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not, okay? Yes, we want to bring our dog everywhere, but at the same time, alone time, independence. Teaching your dog that it's okay to do nothing. But leaving your dog alone, having your dog learn to do nothing, I think is very important and very underrated. And I find that people are like, we always have to have the dog doing something, bully stick, this, that. Don't get me wrong. These are great things, great ways to regulate. But also, you know what another way to regulate is? Active rest. Getting your dog to just lay there and do nothing. I think it's very important, especially if you are a traveler. I know some people are like, well, if I'm a dog owner, then I'm not a traveler. Okay, fine. But there are some people that are not like that, who do still like to travel. This is why, boarding is a $1 billion business, right? Because people go places. So if that is you, and you have the mindset of don't get me wrong, I know you care about your dog, but if you have the mindset of the dog's not with me, so I don't even want to think about it. Okay, fine. But if you're like me, where you are thinking about the well-being of your dog in the sense of their emotions, their feelings, if they're super stressed, etc., The way you negate a lot of that stuff is by making sure that there's independence, is by making sure that you are leaving the dog alone. Now, doggy daycare and all of these things are phenomenal, okay? But I'm not even talking about the dog being with someone else. I'm talking about putting your dog in their room or crate or however you do things at home for 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day, maybe even 2 hours a day. You know, there was such a time where we were almost always, or most of us were gone for 8 hours. Now, if you work from home, which seems to be, at least for me, my case, 80% of my clients all work from home now, or at least the majority of the days they work from home. So that means that you're essentially with the dog 24 hours a day. This definitely needs to change. I think that, and this is where I'm kind of like, okay, is the dilemma of the anxiety going up and the confidence going down because the people are working from home more often now? Or is it just, I'm just getting more of it now? I can't tell. But 20 plus years of doing this, I'd say that I'm getting a lot more anxiety as of the past couple of years, especially after COVID. So it's hard for me to think that's a coincidence, especially with the fact that everyone's working from home. So, two big things that I think we should be doing to get back into that. One, let's make sure that we are actually giving a little bit of independence and teaching the dog to do nothing, essentially. And number two, let's also make sure that we're bringing our dog everywhere, whether it's in the car, whether it's to a friend's house, whether it's to, a picnic, whatever it might be. It's such a phenomenal idea to do this for the emotions, the well-being, the independence, the confidence. All of these things are so important. And I think these two factors are very overlooked and very underrated, which is alone time and let's get my dog confident. Let's bring my dog everywhere. Let's, not have my dog be afraid of their own shadow. A lot of the cases too, I'm not saying this is I'm generalizing. There are some cases where, it's very different. When I'm dealing with a dog from like the Korean meat market, these dogs are going to have anxiety, more or less. They're going to be afraid of people. Exposure is one thing, but flooding is, flooding could be a lot less than what flooding kind of makes you feel like. When I say flooding, you're probably thinking, again, bringing my dog to a club, right, with 50 people in the room or whatever, or 500 people in the room. For a dog that is already stressed around people, one person in the room could be flooding, depending on what that one person is doing. It's a dog, trying to go towards the dog or follow the dog, or and so on. So I think that there's limits for every case. But if you are dealing with a dog that has anxiousness or nervousness, I want you to know that those two things are very, very important. The first podcast back, yes, I wanted to get into the anxiety. I also wanted to just kind of catch up, right? So as you may know, I had a facility in the Pointe Claire village that was in Montreal. For all my people who listen to me that are not from Montreal, I have gotten rid of it. So I am solo, just me. And I'd say one of the things that I started looking at is more of the online scenario, where I'm trying to help more people. I love my Montreal people. I love Montreal in general. I love all of my clients and support, friends, family. Everyone has been amazing. But I want to broaden my horizons, I guess you could say. And so I'm aiming to be a lot more in the online world, including actually having my own online courses. That's to come later on. Just want to add, if you are interested it doesn't matter where you live. You could be anywhere in the world. If you are interested in having a 1-hour session with me, I'm doing a special right now. It's $50 USD for a 1-hour Zoom session with me. We can get into any type of problems that you might be having with your dog. Or even if you were just trying to be proactive and you want some tips or this and that. So please, and to be quite frank with you, at 50 USD, I'm pretty sure that's a pretty good deal wherever you live. Hiring a trainer, getting them to go to your house or whatever. I mean, if it's less than 50 USD, wow, that's you're in good shape there. Let me tell you. So $50 USD, so we can do a session together. You can email me at info@canineeducation.ca. So Canine Education is CANINE, and then education.ca. info@canineeducation.ca. Remember, this will not be posted online in the sense of I'm doing these Zoom sessions. So this is only for the listeners. If this is something that interests you and you want some tips, $50 USD, go ahead and send me an email, info@canineeducation.ca. Let me know, and we'll get it set up. We'll get it going. Back to the show. So, anxiety. I really want to make sure we're doing those two big things. Independence, alone time, and of course, bringing your dog everywhere, building that confidence. What else can you do for confidence boosting? Well, guess what? Obedience. Obviously, obedience is so important for many reasons, but did you know that the more obedience your dog knows, the more confident they are? You know how we know this? Because it's the same thing for us. That's right. If we know more of whatever we're doing, we are just automatically more confident. So it's so important to, educate ourselves and to do more and to be active. The more active you are, the more confident you are, the better you feel. This is why working out has been such a game changer for so many people when you speak to them about their diet and this and that. So confidence boosting also comes from obedience. The more they know, the better. The more commands they know, the better. The more confident they are in situations. When your dog is nervous in a situation and you say a command that they know very well, it automatically increases their confidence. Oh, I know what to do in this situation. And mom and dad just told me to do this. So this really, really helps. So I think it's important to keep that in the back of your mind, that obedience is still a very powerful tool. Another big one that I think is not used as much as it should is just scenarios where dogs have to walk on things or walk over things. You'd be very surprised how much confidence this can deliver. If you look at service dogs are probably some of the most confident dogs you can meet. They go through vigorous training. And one of the big training exercises that they do is where they go through a lot of touching, feeling, walking over items, and going through cans or a pool, a little baby pool of 2-liter bottles or tin foil, anything that will kind of make noise and so on to just kind of get them a little bit more acclimated. These things are so important to do with your dog at any age. Could be any age. Everyone thinks, I always get the I don't know, I don't understand why my dog is like this. We did all the obedience, we did everything right. It's more complex than that. It's not about, I did everything right. They're like us. Sometimes, sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad. That's just how it goes. Okay? Let me tell you, with my kids, things go bad often. Okay. So another thing that I think I'd like to at least deliver as advice when it comes to the anxiety is whatever the anxiety scenario is, leaving the house. seeing people, loud noises, whatever it is. The key is to try and work on desensitizing them to the triggers. So desensitizing them to the triggers would be scenarios where you are trying to create that anxiety rhythm, but at a very, very small, minuscule rate. So it could be something like grabbing my car keys. I notice my dog starts to kind of panic. Or, making my coffee in the morning, which is, I only make coffee when I'm about to leave. Or whatever, that is good little scenarios where you can work on desensitizing the dog to the anxiety. Desensitizing the dog to the trigger of one of the anxiety symptoms. So this can really help. Another thing could be like, okay, if it's people, or, a better one, because I deal with this, every day, dogs. So, my dog is very skittish, nervous, etc. Go to a dog park. Hear me out. I know I get some feedback quite often from other trainers, so I'm going to try to make sure I express everything properly. What I'm saying about going to a dog park is not to go into the dog park. And to be quite frank with you, if you are a dog trainer and you are telling people to go into dog parks to, rid the anxiety or to get the dog better at so-and-so, this is not great advice, in my opinion. Sorry to say. Okay? I know there's 500 different methods for everything, and I'm okay with that. I'm not even saying that my method is the only method. What I am saying, though, is that flooding is flooding. I mean, if your dog is nervous and scared and throwing them into the pit or kicking them into the pool, so to speak, if you think that that is the correct thing to do, by all means. But I would give that a big X. Okay, what's important, though, is you could go to the dog park, you could scan and stay on the outside of the dog park, not even right at the fence. I'm talking like 50, 60 feet away. And if you tell me, oh, well, Josh, my dog is fine in that case. Okay, great. Let's go 20 feet closer, right? Let's challenge our dog and see where we can go from there. That is how you desensitize them in a more, I would say, in a more comfortable, helpful way, where you're not flooding them, but you are activating the triggers, but at a distance where it's a little bit more controllable. And then you could pet them, you can console them, you could let them know that, like, see, everything is fine, you're still okay. And then you try to get a few feet closer, maybe the week after. Doing this is very mathematical. I say this all the time because it is. Dog training, like anything else, is mathematical. I'm sure if a personal trainer was listening to this, they would say the same thing when it comes to lifting weights. I mean, consistency, right? So it's mathematical. It's how many times do you do it? If you see someone that's stronger or bigger than you, it's probably because mathematically they've been doing it a lot longer than you. 2 years more, 5 years more. They do 3 more sessions than you. I know there's a lot that goes into it, recovery, this, that. So does dog training. But needless to say, mathematics are very important in that sense. Consistency factors are important. You go to the dog park and you try to do this, once every month, you will probably see results within a few years, right? If that. Now, if you're doing it every day, I know that might be unrealistic, but if we're doing it 3 times a week, I think you would see tremendous results much faster than you anticipate. Now, having said that, anticipate, I guess that's a strong thing to kind of say, because a lot of people I find are wondering why it's taking so long. And I think that we need to understand that these are not scenarios where we can just use an aversive tactic or flood them or throw them in there and say like, okay, look, see, the dog is in there, he's fine, he's not dead, he's fine. He'll learn like this. This is something I used to do back in the day when I didn't know better. It might feel good for some, but if you really know dogs and you see and you look at that dog, you can tell that that dog is not okay. And it's okay to be a little nervous here and there. I'm not saying that that's not okay. I'm just saying have a little bit more compassion when you're working these type of scenarios, because anxiety in some cases are, I guess you could almost say, uncontrollable. And so because they're uncontrollable, you're trying to work on these triggers to actually make it a little bit more controllable. Not the anxiety, but the triggers that trigger the anxiety. So you're trying to desensitize them to these triggers so that they're less nervous over time. Like if someone is going on stage and their friend is like, "Why are you so nervous?" It's like, well, or they're like, "Don't be so nervous." Well, I mean, I'm nervous. What can I say? Right? It is what it is. Now, when you do it 50 times, I'm sure it gets easier. Maybe for some, maybe they're still throwing up before they go on stage. I don't know, right? Or they have sweats, or they're freaking out or whatever. But the point is that it's all mathematical, and you have to desensitize them and make them feel good in these situations, and essentially you're even tricking them a little bit, grabbing the car keys, desensitizing them to these symptoms that trigger the anxiety. So in a nutshell, confidence boosting is super important. We also have to remember that as well as confidence boosting being important, we have to work on independence. When it comes to the different formulas and levels of anxiety, one thing that I would say is so important is, always increasing the obedience. It shouldn't be like sit, stay, lay down, and then like we're done. The more games you play with your dog, the more confident they become. This is why when you watch dogs that are in shows and show dogs in general, you'll see them not bat a lash. They're so confident in these scenarios because they do it so much, and it's because they're constantly being worked. And this is important. This is really important. So I hope you enjoyed my first session, my first podcast back to getting back into it. I'm super happy to be here. I am so grateful. The reason why I got back into the podcast, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said, 23 and 24 was a little rough and wild for me, good and bad. I'll definitely get more into it as the podcasts go on. But one of the big things was how many people reached out to me and was like, "I love your podcast. Like, we want more. Like, what are you waiting for, Josh?" And to be honest with you, yeah, I see the numbers, and the numbers are high. But I guess, it just kind of sparked something. And I was like, wow, I had no idea that so many people loved it. What was probably really crazy for me was I met someone, multiples, but one in particular that really just wowed me was something that I freaked out about is that I had a client who reached out to me. It was for puppy training. Now, I don't get a lot of puppies. I'm more of the problem guy, right? So people come to me when it's big issues. But it's still amazing when I get stuff like this, right? When I get to meet puppy and help out the owner and this and that. So anyways, and I meet this puppy and this dog is Schnauzer. Okay, I'm not going to say any names. Well, I could say the dog's name. The dog's name is Bauer. Okay, and I was just floored with what the owner did with this dog. And I remember a couple of sessions in, and I was like, wow, I have to say, you're just, you've done this, you've done that. Incredible stuff. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, it's because I listened to your podcast. And I was like, what? Now, don't get me wrong. The consistency factor of this said person, I'm not going to use names, but this client of mine, I mean, whole different level. I just incredible consistency. Just amazing. So I have to say she just killed it in the sense of the dog training. But to hear that she killed it by listening to some of my information, I mean, that really sparked me to say, like, okay, Josh, I am helping people. I need to get on this and get back into the podcast. So here I am. So back to getting into the podcast. I'm going to be doing weekly or bi-weekly. One other thing, stay tuned. I am actually changing the name. CE Dog Training Podcast is just kind of a little too basic for me, and I find that it's a lot harder for people to find me naturally with CE versus if it was like Canine Education. But I found a really cool name that hasn't been taken. I don't want to say anything just yet because I haven't taken it, but I will most likely be changing the name probably by, I don't know, maybe my second or third or fourth podcast. So yeah, in a few weeks, you might notice a new name.